Hello guys, how are you? Okay, so I hope everybody is doing well or everybody is doing fine. So we'll just start the session in 2 to 3 minutes. But before that, uh, like how many of you know Hindi? I guess many people knows Hindi or not. Oh, it is already uploaded last class on iNeuron. Yeah. So how many of you know Hindi? Yeah. So very soon I'll also be creating playlist of entire data science, machine learning, deep learning in Hindi also in my other channel, that is Krishnaik Blogs. So many people have actually requested it. So I thought of, okay, let's do this thing also. So it'll be helpful for those people who find difficulty in understanding in English. So I'll try to upload that in Hindi also, and definitely that will also improve my Hindi teaching skills, right? So that way, let's see how we will be able to think. Okay. So apart from that, how are you all? How is the session going on? You should hit like before coming. And today's session is going to be very super important because whatever things we have discussed yesterday, right? I hope everybody understood the differences between confidence interval, null hypothesis, hypothesis testing. You know, so all those kind of things. Probably we can actually do it, and it will be definitely amazing, right? So in order to make sure that, like, from tomorrow the Python videos are going to come in Hindi channel also. So again, you can go and search in YouTube Krishnaik Blogs, and then probably you can actually see that, and make sure that you subscribe the channel and Krishnaik Blogs. Okay, so that is the YouTube channel name. Subscribe it so that I will start uploading videos in Hindi, and from tomorrow only you'll be able to see it. So I'll run parallelly Python, stats, machine learning, and deep learning so that you'll be able to learn it in a quick succession of time, right? Okay, so we will start the session, or should we wait for another 2 minutes to start the session? I think we can start. Okay, now today, what all things we are basically going to see. So today topics, what all things we are going to see is that the first thing that we are going to check out is something called as type 1, type 2 error. So the first topic that we are going to see is something like type 1 and type 2 error. Very super important. Probably in machine learning, you'll be discussing about, um, you know, confusion matrix. Fine, guys. If it is not uploaded, don't worry. It will get uploaded today. Okay. I will say the backend team to do it. The second thing that we are probably going to discuss about after one tail or after type 1 and type 2 error is basically your one tailed and two tailed test. Okay. The third topic that we are going to see is that how to find out confidence interval. Okay. That is what we are going to see. Now, confidence interval, how to calculate this. Okay. Probably when an alpha value is given, I told you we need to define some confidence interval in order to solve uh, some problems. Okay. The fourth topic that we will try to see after confidence interval is something called as Z test, T test. Okay. And if we get time, we will also finish up chi-square test. So this is probably the today's plan, that what we are going to do. Okay. And we are going to solve all these particular things. Please make sure that you have your notebook ready. and probably your laptop ready, so that parallelly, if I'm doing any kind of coding, you'll be able to see it. So shall we start? Are we good enough to start? Yeah. Are we good enough to start? I think it is 7:05. We can basically start and we can start the discussion, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, guys. So first thing first, you can see that in the previous session we have discussed about the significance value, about this, what is okay. You can find the video. Yeah, video and sample variance has already been uploaded in my stats playlist, so you can check out from there. Okay. So let's start. The first topic that we are probably going to discuss about is something called as type 1 and type 2 error. Always understand whenever we do any kind of hypothesis testing, one very important thing I told you, that what we have. The first topic that we are probably going to discuss about is type 1 and type 2 error. Okay. Type 1 and type 2 error. Always understand in any kind of hypothesis testing, right? We do have something called as null hypothesis. Null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is usually denoted by H0. Okay. We have something called as alternate hypothesis. Okay. Alternate hypothesis, which is denoted by H1. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, after performing any kind of experiments, right? Let's say that I'm performing an experiment where to check whether the coin is fair or not. I'll take the same example what we have discussed yesterday, and coin is not fair, right? So I will probably go and check whether it falls within the confidence interval. I'll check the significance value. Based on that, the confidence interval will be defined. Everything we will do, and that is what I explained in the yesterday's part. Now, from this, after we perform the experiment, there are two types of decisions that can be made. First of all, we'll go with respect to the reality check. Okay. So the reality check will be that either null hypothesis will be true, null hypothesis is true, or null hypothesis is false, right? Only these two things we will be able to see in reality check, right? It's false, right? If I go and check with respect to the decision, because this is what I am actually trying to test, right? In decision, I may either get null hypothesis as true, null hypothesis is true, or null hypothesis is false. When null hypothesis is false, I will say that alternate hypothesis is accepted, right? Or we reject the null hypothesis, right? So these two obviously we have, right? We basically have these two things, right? Which is needed to basically test. Guys, is my voice audible? Clearly audible? Can you give me a confirmation? I think for the people who cannot hear me, I think from my YouTube channel I can see that my voice is audible. Okay, so I don't think so any problem in the voice. Okay. Wow, amazing guy named as Manthan Rathod. Manthan Rathod, you got an offer from Vodafone. Congratulations, Manthan. Okay. Now, from this two, what you can basically derive is that, see this, very important. First outcome, let's say what may be the possible outcome. Okay, so what may be the possible outcome? So outcome one, I will say that, okay, outcome one is that we reject the null hypothesis. Reject the null hypothesis, that is my decision, when it is when in reality it is false, right? Is this a good decision? Yes. We reject the null hypothesis when in reality it is false. Is this a good decision or no? Ayush Mehra, please don't Just don't keep on writing message, right? Otherwise I have to hide. Focus on the session. Okay. We reject the null hypothesis when in reality it is false. Okay. Tell me whether this is a good decision or not. Okay. Whether this is a good decision, yes or no. Tell me. We reject the null hypothesis when in reality it is false. Yes, it is obviously a very good decision. This is how we should take a decision. Now, when in reality, when I say that in reality it is false, obviously we are rejecting the null hypothesis. Okay, very good decision. Now, the second outcome, let's go ahead and discuss the second outcome. Now, suppose I write the outcome 2. What are the possible outcomes? I'm just trying to show you. Okay, we reject the null hypothesis. We reject the null hypothesis when in reality it is true. So over here, what should be your decision? Whether this is a good decision or not. Again, I have to note at this particular point, when in reality it is true. If we are rejecting the null hypothesis, is this a correct decision or not? Okay. Over here in this particular case, obviously many people will say that it is a bad decision. So here I will say no. And this kind of decisions is specifically called as type 1 error. Okay. So this decision is basically called as type 1 error, right? So this is my outcome 2. Okay. So this decision, when we are rejecting the null hypothesis, when in reality it is true. Okay. Let's say that I take my null hypothesis as the person is innocent, and my alternate hypothesis is person is not innocent. Okay. Now in this particular case, the person, we are just acquitting him. In movies we have seen, right? Many people will just be awarded death sentence even though they have not done anything wrong. So that kind of example is what you are actually seeing over here. Okay. We reject the null hypothesis when in reality it is true. That basically means the person is awarded a death sentence even though he did not do anything. Okay. So this is a perfect example. You have seen in movies, right? In movies, okay, you'll be seeing that a person will be awarded a death sentence even though he did not do anything. In the case of a fake case, right? So at that point of time, this person is not innocent, but in reality, he is innocent, right? So this becomes a perfect example of type 1 error. Clear, everybody? Yes. Let's go to the outcome 3. Outcome 3. Outcome 3 basically says that this is also a very important outcome. And this all things you will be able to relate in confusion matrix. I don't know how many people knows about confusion matrix. So we retain the null hypothesis, or we accept the null hypothesis. Let's say that I'm saying we accept the null hypothesis when in reality it is false. Is this a good decision? Is this a good decision in this particular case? The answer should be no. So this error is basically called as type 2 error. Okay. Only 4 outcomes will be there. Yeah. 4 outcomes will be there. Okay. 4 outcome will definitely be there. So here you can understand that in this particular case, even though the person has committed crime, okay, he is not acquitted. Okay. So definitely this error is basically called as type 2 error. Perfect. I hope everybody is able to understand till here. Clear, guys, till here? You're able to understand in a better way, I guess. If you are liking it, make sure that you hit the like button. Okay. Okay. I hope everybody's got is clear, right? Now let's go to outcome 4. Outcome 4 is that, okay, outcome 4 is basically that What is outcome 4? We accept the null hypothesis. We accept the null hypothesis when in reality it is true. So this is obviously a good case, right? So here I can say that fine, this decision and this decision are perfectly fine. But whenever we have this scenarios, we basically have to consider it as type 1 and type 2 error. Okay. So I hope everybody is getting it, right? So similarly, in the real world scenario, you define something called as confusion matrix, right? In confusion matrix, what you have? You have true, positive, right? Sorry, true, false, and just a second. In confusion matrix, what you have? You have true, false, positive, negative, right? So here you are basically defining your true positive, true negative, false positive, false negative, right? So this basically becomes your true positive, true negative, false positive, false negative. Now tell me out of this, okay? Tell me out of this, tell me out of this which is type 1 and type 2 error, okay? Either this can be type 1 or type 2 error, okay? This two, that will be a answer for you, okay? So you have to tell me, okay, whether false positive will be a type 1 error or true negative will be type 2 error or vice versa. Okay, perfect. So this will be one assignment to you. If you don't know, just check out one of my video, you'll be able to see it. But clear guys, was this explanation good for type 1 and type 2 error? So we have completed this specific topic, that is type 1 and type 2 error. Perfect. So some people are basically saying false positive is type 1, true negative is type 2. Okay. FP is type 1. Okay. Perfect. So here you have actually solved a very good topic which is called as type 1 and type 2 error. Okay. Now let's go to the next topic, that is one-tailed and two-tailed test. This is also very much super important. One-tail and two-tailed test. Okay. Okay. Shall I start this, everyone? Shall I start this? Can I get a go ahead? Yes, and one more announcement. Probably next week, I will also be announcing 7 days machine learning algorithm live session, where we'll focus on understanding all the machine learning algorithms that are present in the data science world. Okay, good news for you all. Yeah, so here you can basically check out. Okay, okay. So one tail and two tail test. Now let's go ahead and let's try to understand what is one tailed and two tail test. Now already you have seen that I have probably drawn a curve, a bell curve, and in that I basically define a kind of one-tailed and two-tailed test. Still, you have seen it, but let me give you a good example. Okay, so the example is that a college in, let's say, a college, or let me write like this, colleges in Karnataka have an 85% placement rate. Okay, placement rate in the placements time. A new college, a new college, a new college was recently opened, and it was found that a sample of that a sample of 150 students had a placement rate of 88%. Okay, with a standard deviation 4%. Okay, does this college have or has a different placement placement rate than the other colleges? Okay, than the other colleges. So understand this question very much importantly. Okay, now understand over here. Oops, sorry guys, I made one mistake. This should not be type 2. False negative should be type 2, right? True positive and true negative are perfectly fine. Okay, this should be type 2. Okay, true positive and true negative are always right. Okay, so just check this confusion matrix. Don't worry, I'll be teaching you in machine learning everything. This topic also I'll be teaching you. Okay, okay, so don't worry. Little bit low energy, but I can basically gain up. So I'm drinking some water because it's been fifth day, right? Extremely sorry. Right now my mind is focusing on many things. Okay, but now I think it is right for you all. Hmm. Okay, now everybody has understood this question. Yes, now let's try to understand. Let's try to understand some very important thing. Okay, from this particular question. Okay, now what does this question basically say? Okay, whether, see, there are colleges in Karnataka which has 85% placement rate. A new college was recently opened and it was found out that a sample of 150 students had a placement rate of 88% with a standard deviation 4%. Thus, the college has a different placement rate. Thus, this college, this basically means the new college. Okay. Now, in this particular case, first of all, think about the question. Okay. Now, over here it says, does this college has a different placement rate? What is the placement rate of the entire college? 85%. Right? So does it have a different rate than 85%? That is what we really need to check, right? Now in this particular case, this becomes a two-tailed test. Why? We'll think over it. Let's say that here the significance value is given as 0.05. Let's consider, okay? Let's consider that over here, the significance value is given as 0.05, okay? Now what we do over here is that we will try to create a graph like this. Now when we have 0.05, that basically means if it is a two-tailed test basically means right now I have a placement rate of 85%. So 85% is, you can just consider that 85% will be what in this particular case, right? 85% passage rate, or sorry, placement rate, right? So 85%, but we need to find out over here when alpha is given, 2.5 will be here, 2.5 will be here, right? And this will be my 95% confidence interval, right? So 95 will basically be here. If I combine all these things, it will become 1. Now you need to understand whether this will become a two-tail test or a one-tail test. This is what is very much simple. Now this 85% will be my mean. My value can be greater than 85, it can be less than 85. Okay, it can be greater than 85, it can be less than 85, because we are just checking whether it has a different placement rate. It can be greater, it can be less also. So that is the reason this entire test becomes a two-tailed test, because the new college that gets added, it may fall in this region also, it may fall in this region. Right now you'll be able to see that we are just trying to check whether it is greater than 85 or whether it is less than 85. Everybody clear with this? Yes? Yes? So this becomes a two-tailed test. Now let me just make a little bit change into the question. Now my question says that, let's say that my question, I'll just change the question saying that, does this college have a placement rate greater than 85%? Now what will this be? Greater than 85%. Think over it. What this will basically be? Yeah, what this will be? Now my question will look like this. This is my alpha value is 0.05. Obviously it is 95% confidence interval, but this is only focused in finding greater, right? So this entire value I'll put over here, and this region will be my 5 value, this region will be my 95% value. So this becomes one tail test, that also in the right hand side, because here the important keyword is something called as greater. So this becomes a one tail test, and remember, we cannot divide this alpha value into two parts in this case. Only in one part it will be basically present. Everybody clear? Now just think over it. If this value is lesser, then what will happen? It will come in this particular side, right? Everybody clear? Yes, right? So I hope you are understanding what is the difference between one tail and two tail test. If you are liking it, please make sure that hit like, motivate me. Now my energy is gaining, now I'll start teaching in a very good way. You see this, now my focus is completely here. Okay, and probably I will show you how to find out confidence interval now. Okay, the next topic. Okay, so right, so always make sure that focus on the question, what the question is basically said. Here, does this college has a different placement rate? From the experiment, any experiment that I may carry on, my answer will be either greater than 85 or less than 85. So that becomes a two-tail test, right? In this particular case, I'm saying greater than 85% with alpha value is 0.05. So I am definitely sure that I'm actually checking only this region. I'm not worried at this particular region because I need to check whether it is greater than 85. Okay, this is the most important thing with respect to one tail or two tail test. Okay, okay, perfect. Now the next thing that we are going to discuss about is, so we have finished one tail and two tail also. Now let's go ahead and understand how to find out this confidence interval. I told you, right? See, this is very much important. Confidence intervals with respect to means. Okay, I told you, right? In confidence interval, what we do? We basically have this graph. When I say my alpha value is 0.05, then this becomes a two-tailed test. Suppose I need to find this value, right? I need to find these two values. How do I find out these two values? That is what we are going to see. We are going to do some kind of calculations which will actually help me to understand. So, in order to find out confidence interval, you really need to understand some things. Sir, if it asks less than 85, so it will be considered as one tail test? Yes, obviously one tail test, but in the left hand side. Okay, right now this will be in the right hand side. Okay, okay. Now let's try to understand with respect to confidence interval. Now, in order to understand confidence interval, you really need to understand a topic which is called as point estimate. Okay, so I will basically give the definition of point estimate. What exactly is point estimate? Point estimate can be defined as a value of any statistic that estimates the value of a parameter is called a point estimate. Okay, so a simple definition I have written over here. I'll define about what is this statistic and which estimates the value of a parameter. So two things, one is statistics and one is parameter. So what exactly is point estimate? A value of any statistics that estimates the value of a parameter. Now understand one thing, guys. In inferential statistics, in inferential stats, any work that we will be doing, first of all, we will be considering a sample data. Based on this sample data, we will be estimating something for the population data, right? In this particular example, let's consider that I will try to, if I have the sample meal, I'll try to estimate the population. Okay. And usually this only things happens in inferential stats. You'll just have the sample information, probably population standard deviation you may know, but you really need to find out or estimate the population value. Okay. And as you know, like let's say that I'll give one example. This is my X bar. This X bar, we will try to estimate the value of mu bar, right? Because if I have a population with the help of sample, I can definitely estimate mu. But always remember, this value may be approximately equal to this. It may be also less, it may be also greater, right? In one case, I may say that if my X bar is 2.9, okay, and probably my population mean is mu is equal to 3, right? This may be equal, this may be less, this may be little bit greater also. This is what point estimate is all about. So this is the point estimate which will be estimating the mu value. Okay. So I hope everybody is able to understand from this, right? Yes. So in this particular case, I hope you understood what exactly is point estimate. Okay. So point estimate is the value of any statistics that estimates the value of a parameter. So through this, we are basically estimating the mean. Okay. So at least get this specific knowledge. Now, in most of the problem statement, I will be given this and I really need to estimate this. How will I be able to do this? Okay. So for that specific case, we will try to see a problem statement now. Okay. And here we will use something called as confidence interval. Now understand, I told you that this value will be approximately equal to mean. It may be less than mean, it may be greater than mean. So in this particular scenario, we define something called as confidence intervals so that we will be able to come towards the population mean. So confidence interval is usually given by the formula, which is nothing but point estimate plus or minus margin of error. So there is some margin of error, right? There is some margin of error because over here you can see 2.9. This is obviously less. It can also be greater. So I have written plus or minus of margin of error. Okay? Because obviously we will not know the exact population mean, right? We don't know. So obviously the point estimate plus margin of error will actually help us to get the same mean. Okay? And this is how we determine the confidence interval. Now let's see one problem statement. By this, you will basically be able to understand what I'm actually saying. From this formula, you will be able to understand that how close we are near to the population mean. The second thing is that suppose if you are given the population standard deviation, at that point of time, what formula you should use to do this and how large your sample size is. Okay. So let me just solve one very simple problem and give it to you. Okay. So the problem is very simple, not that difficult at all, and we'll try to solve that specific problem. Okay. Let's say, so this is my question. On the quant test of CAT exam, I hope everybody knows CAT exam. CAT exam. Okay. On the quant test of CAT exam, the population standard deviation, the standard deviation is known to be 100. Okay. So please, I hope everybody is able to understand it. Okay. Now, the next thing is that I will take a sample of 25 test takers. 25 test takers has a mean of 520 score. Okay. So here my question is that construct a 95% confidence interval about the mean. Now let's see what all information is given. Over here, you know that some information is definitely given, you know that, right? So first information, what is given? Over here, you know your population standard deviation is given. What is your population standard deviation? Here you can see that it is 100, right? 100 is the population standard. What is your small n size? It is nothing but 25. What is your confidence interval? With respect to this alpha, I will get 0.05, right? And what is your mean? What is your mean over here? Mean is nothing but x bar, which is nothing but 520. Is this information given in the question? Is this information given in the question? Right? Is this information given in the question? Obviously, it is given, right? Now, my graph looks something like this. See this. My graph is looking like this. Okay. My mean is basically, what is my mean? My mean is nothing but 520. Now, my alpha value is 0.05. So here I have 2.5, here I have 2.5, right? And this is my 95% confidence interval. Now I need to find out what this value, what this range is basically, right? If I say that I want to construct a 95 confidence interval about the mean, what is this value? What value from here to here it will range? That is what I need to find out, right? So this is what is my problem statement. I've also given the standard deviation. Now here, whenever population standard, first thing, whenever population standard deviation is given, okay, whenever population standard deviation is given, okay, guys, why 90 alpha is 0.05? See, I've given the question as 95% confidence interval, right? So it is nothing but 1 minus 0.95, which is nothing but 0.05. So this will be my alpha value, right? Alpha and confidence interval are interlinked, right? Very simple. Now, when population standard deviation is basically given, we apply a test, right? What kind of test? Now, here I know that this will be my point estimate plus or minus margin of error. This is for my confidence interval formula. Now, point estimate is obviously your x bar. Now, plus or minus, whenever you have this population standard deviation, you apply a z test. So here you'll write z alpha by 2 and the formula will be standard deviation divided by root n. Okay. Now this is your formula. This term, I'll talk about this term. This term that you see is called as standard error. Standard error. Okay. Nimai Ghosh, everything will be available. Okay. So in this particular case, one more second point is that when we should use this formula to find out the confidence interval. The next thing is that over here you will be able to see that I have taken a sample of 25, but usually the sample size will be greater than or equal to 30. But just for an example, I have taken as 25. Okay, so it's okay. Now don't fight with me, Krish, why I have taken 25. Take it 30 also, we have to do the calculation. Okay. But these two conditions suits well for this kind of problem statement. Okay, so for a Z test to happen, most of the time this two condition needs to be approved. Okay, now this Z test is nothing but Z score. Okay, Z score to find out the Z score. That is what Z test is basically used. Okay, now understand over here what this alpha is. Okay, so this is the entire formula. Okay, to find out the confidence interval if your population standard deviation is given and when your sample size is greater than or equal to 30. Okay, I hope everybody is understood till here, or still you are facing some kind of confusion. I'll just wait till I drink water. Right? Yes, Piyush, I wrote n is greater than or equal to 30, but here I have taken n as 25. You can change it to 30. Okay, you can change it, but I am just making it simple for calculation. That's it. Okay. Now let's go and solve this particular problem. Now when I go and solve this particular problem, the first thing is that I will split this equation into two parts. One is I will get one higher confidence interval. Alpha value is 0.05 divided by 2. Standard deviation is, what is standard deviation over here? It is nothing but 100 divided by root 25. Now you understood why I have taken 25, because my calculation will become easier. Don't fight with me, guys. I don't have energy to fight. Nowadays I fight with a lot of people. So this will basically be my upper bound of confidence interval. Okay. Similarly, lower bound of confidence interval, I'll try to find out. That is x bar minus z 0.05 divided by 2, 100 divided by root 25. Now here I will write 0.05 by 2 is nothing but z is nothing but 0.025, right? I hope everybody is getting this. Now, how do I find out this particular value? For this, go and open your browser, okay, and open Z table. So if I go and open Z table, if I open Z table, let me just open a Z table, another Z table I'll try to open, just a second. Okay, point here all minus are basically shown. So I'll not use this Z table, wait. I'll use the other one because there are only negative values given. Here probably I'll be able to find out. Okay. Now in Z table, always understand over here when I say 0.025, okay, my entire area is how much? Just a second, guys. I think I'm facing some problem. Okay. So my entire area is 1. If I subtract 1 with 0.025, that basically means this part. The entire area will become 0.975, right? So 0.975 I have to check in the Z table. So for this, what I will do is that I will go to my browser and go and check it. Where is 0.975? 0.975 is nothing but this specific area. Okay. Go and check this 0.975. I hope you are able to see this. So what is this value? 1.9. And if I go on top, it is 0.06. That basically means the Z value is 1.96. Again, I will give you this link. Go and check it out. Okay. So go down over here, you will be able to see 0.9750. It is nothing but 1.9, and this is 0.06. So this becomes my Z score. Okay. So finally, I get my value as 1.96. Okay. Now go and calculate it. So what is my X bar? For the upper bound, I will say my X bar is nothing but, what is the mean of the sample? It is nothing but 520. Okay. So it is 520 plus 1.96 multiplied by 20, right? Similarly, the lower bound, it is nothing but 520 minus 1.96 multiplied by 20. Now go ahead and compute this. Go ahead and compute this. So probably if I open my calculator, it is nothing but 20 multiplied by 1.96 multiplied by 520. So this is, sorry, plus 520 it should be. 1.96 multiplied by 20 plus 520. Is everybody getting 559.2? 559.2. And then what I'm actually getting over here? 20 multiplied by 1.96 minus 520. So here I'm actually getting 480.8. 480.8. So this is my lower bound and upper bound. That basically means whenever I am defining my confidence interval for this distribution with alpha is 0.05 and this value will be 559.2 and this value will be 480.8, and my mean will basically be 520, right? Right? So one stats interview question that I told, right? Find the average size of the sharks throughout the world. Can you solve this by taking your own example? Because one of my student solved this particular problem and he gave some confidence interval. He said that let's assume this and try to solve in this particular way. He said that, okay, let's consider, oh, there the interviewer said, you know the population standard deviation, you know the X bar value, you know the N value. Try to solve it with alpha as 0.05. Okay. Ayush Nautiyal, understand that over here when my alpha value is 0.025, I am just worried about one tail, right? This side. This entire area is 1. So 1 minus 0.025 is 0.975. Okay. Now after performing any experiment, if my value falls between these two, at that point of time, I will assume that it is, we need to accept the null hypothesis and we can go ahead with it. If it does not fall within this range, then it is going to fall away from the hypothesis. But basically, we need to reject the null hypothesis. Clear, everybody? Yeah, clear, guys? We did well in this problem statement. Okay. Now, the next question that we are probably going to see is that what if the population standard deviation is not given? Now, in that particular scenario, what will you do? For that particular case, you really need to use something called as t-test. So let me just show you one very good example and that also we'll try to solve. Okay. Let's say that the same question, okay, in the same question over here, this standard deviation is not given. Okay, standard deviation is not given, population standard deviation is not given, but sample standard deviation is given. So I'll write down the question over here for you. Okay, but I hope you are able to understand it. Okay, so the question is that on the quant test of CAT exam. Okay. On the quant test of a CAT exam, a sample of 25 test takers has a mean of 520 score with a standard deviation. Now, this standard deviation that is given is basically your sample standard deviation. Okay, has a standard deviation of 80. Construct 95% confidence interval about the mean. So this is basically my question, right? So this is my question. So over here you can see that population standard deviation is not given. So in this particular case, I definitely have to use Z test. So over here, sorry, T test. Condition I'll write, okay? First of all, we'll try to see what all things are given. Your N value is given, which is 25. Your X bar is given, which is nothing but 520, right? Your sample standard deviation is given, that is 80, and your alpha is 0.05. So when you see over here, your values have not been given over here. That basically means your, the conditions, I'll not say conditions, but here your population standard deviation is not given. So I can write a condition saying that here population standard deviation is not given. So in this particular case, we use something called as T test. If population standard deviation given, at that point of time, you use T test. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's try to solve this particular problem. Now again over here, till here, I hope everybody has understood this, right? Yeah, everybody has understood this. Can I get a quick yes if everybody is understood? Yeah, great, perfect. I hope everybody is enjoying the session. Yes, great. Now, let's go and try to compute it. Here also the same formula will be used. Point estimate plus or minus margin of error. Here your margin of error formula will change. Okay. Now what kind of formula it will have, that you need to understand. The formula will be something like X bar plus or minus, instead of writing Z alpha by 2, here you will be writing T alpha by 2, and then you will be using S by root n. This is your standard error again. Okay. Now go and substitute it. Okay. So two things you will be basically having. One is upper bound. It will be X bar plus T 0.05 by 2 S by root n, right? Now first thing first, always understand to calculate the T. Okay, to calculate the T value, you need to find out something called a degree of freedom. Because in the T table, you will be asked this. And degree of freedom formula is just like your sample variance problem, that is n minus 1, which we also use with respect to Bessel correction. So this will be 25 minus 1, which is nothing but 24. Now I will go to my browser. I will open over here T table. So T table I am having here. Okay. Now first thing first, you need to understand with respect to degree of freedom. What is degree of freedom? 24, right? Degree of freedom is 24, 25. Let's see this. This is 24, right? I hope everybody is able to see the degree of freedom over here. Tell me the values quickly. What should be your answer? What should be your answer? Try to have a look. Try to have a look onto this table. 0.0, 0.025. 0.025, 0.025 is nothing but this one, right? This is what? 0.975. So if I see with respect to 24, it is nothing but 2.064. Is everybody getting it? We have to see in this line 24 degree of freedom on the left hand side. On the right hand side, you can see on top it is 0.025, 0.05. So the answer is 2.064. Okay, 2.064. So here I'm basically going to find your t 0.05 divided by 2 is equal to nothing but 2.064. Is everybody getting this? Yes? Is everybody getting this? Now the next step, once you get this, I will go and see what is my x bar. 520 plus 2.064 multiplied by s. What is s over here? It is nothing but 80 by 5. 5 is nothing but root 25 is 5. So go and calculate it here in this particular case. 18 divided by 5 multiplied by 2.064 plus 520. 553.024. 553.024. Okay. Okay. And then if I go and compute the lower bound, guys, Shreya Patel is asking for Python implementation. So do you want directly Python implementation, or should I teach you in this way? See, Python implementation, you'll not see able to see all this calculation. Choice is yours. Okay. I will not say again and again. I have less energy nowadays. 520 minus 2.064, 80 by 5. Right? If you want directly Python implementation, I can directly give you 2 lines of code. That's it. Within 1 day, the entire session will get over. Okay. So this minus 520. So here I'm actually getting 486.97. So my lower bound is nothing but 486.97. The upper bound of the confidence interval is nothing but 553.02. Clear? Everybody clear? So with this, we have done, wow, I've written so much today. We have finished confidence interval. Congratulations, everybody. We have successfully completed. Congrats. Why this is not two tail? This is two tail only, no? I told you, no, this is two tail. Why are you getting confused? See over here. If I see over here 0.025 for one tail, for two tail, this is 0.05. Right? Clear? So what you have to do, if you are clear, hit like. Okay. Now let's go ahead and try to do the first Z test. I hope everybody has understood why do we use Z test. Okay. So the first question that we are going to solve is one sample Z test. Now we will perform hypothesis testing. Okay. Okay. Let's start. So the first problem that we are going to solve is one sample Z test. Now we are going to perform hypothesis testing. Till now enjoyed, right? All the session. Okay. One sample Z test. Now, what exactly is one sample Z test? First of all, I told you two conditions with respect to Z test. The first condition is that the population standard deviation is given. At that time, you use Z test. The second thing is that your sample size should be have a size at least n is greater than or equal to 30. Just to make calculation easier, I just put it at n is equal to 25 because root of 25 was 5. So because of that, I put it. Don't fight with me. I have no energy. I think you'll beat me and go, but I don't have any energy. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's try to see how to do a hypothesis testing. Okay. Let's say that I'm writing a problem statement in the population. The average IQ is 100 with a standard deviation of 15. Okay. Researchers wants to test a new medication to see if there is positive or negative effect on intelligence. If there is a positive or negative effect on intelligence or no effect at all. Okay. A sample of 30 participants who have taken the medication has a mean IQ of 140. Did the medication affect the intelligence? Just by reading the question, what do you get it from it, guys? Did the medication improve the intelligence or not? Guys, notes is given already. Join the community course. The link is given in the description. So just by seeing the question, what do you think? Did it improve the intelligence or not? Okay. Now I'll show you how to perform a hypothesis testing. Okay. Obviously, you got to know that what test it is used. Okay. Okay. Ready, everyone? Ready? Shall we start? Okay. So let's go ahead and discuss it. Now, first of all, how to perform a hypothesis testing. Okay. So the first step is that we need to define the null hypothesis. Now, in this particular case, null hypothesis is S0. Okay. Now, in S0, what you will basically say that your mean is nothing but 100. Okay. Can I say your mean is 100? Because see, the in the obviously we need to check whether the medication affect the intelligence or not. So here I'll say that my null hypothesis will be that my mean IQ is 100. My alternate will be that my mean is not equal to 100. I hope everybody is agreeing with this. Yeah, I hope it is obviously agreeing with this. Everybody is agreeing with this clearly, right? So over here H0 is equal to mean is equal to 100. Okay, so this basically says that it is your null hypothesis. The second thing is that we need to define our alternate hypothesis. My alternate hypothesis is S0 where my mean is not equal to 100, right? My mean is not equal to 100 because if I'm saying my null hypothesis and the mean is equal to 100, then this will not equal to 100. One important thing that I forgot to mention, my alpha over here will be 0.05. That basically means my confidence interval is 95%. Okay. So this is also a part of the question. Now the third step, let's go to the third step. Okay. Mean is not 140, mean is 100. Sample mean is 140. Sample mean is 140. Okay. You can apply in any concept, guys. It need not be that you can only apply in something. Okay. The third step, we basically state our alpha value. State alpha value. So my alpha value is 0.05. Okay. The fourth step. Let's go to the fourth step now. What do you think the fourth step is? In the fourth step, I need to provide my decision rule. So here I will say state decision rule. And always understand in the decision rule, you need to specify this graph. And here you will basically say that since my alpha is 0.05, what kind of test this will be? Did the medication affect the intelligence? The question, understand this question. Did the medication affect the intelligence? So here we are just focusing on that whether the medication increased your intelligence or whether it decreased your intelligence. Okay. So either it can be. So this definitely will become a two-tailed test. So two-tailed test. So here I will be having 2.5, here I will be having 2.5. So this will be 2.5, this will be 2.5, and this will be 95%. Right? Everybody is clear with this? Can I get a quick yes? Right? This will definitely become a two-tailed test. And one more important thing over here, when I say 2.5, then if I really want to find out with the help of Z test, what will be this value? I have to check it for 1 minus 0.025, right? So this will be 0.975. In this particular value, I need to check in my Z table. So I need to find out this value and this value, right? Go ahead and check it. Go ahead and check it. What will be the value over here? This will be plus 1.96. This will be minus 1.96. We just checked it, right? We just checked it over here. You can see over here, right? Where did it go? Here we got this. This was for T, right? This was for Z. For Z, we got this, right? 1.96. See this? We got 1.96. Okay. So 1.96 plus minus 1.96, right? Now I know my decision rule. My whatever experiment I will perform later on, whatever Z score value I'll be getting, I should be getting within this minus 1.96 to plus 1.96. Okay. So let's go to the next step. Okay. Fifth step. Okay. Now here I will use my test statistics. Now what will be my test statistics over here? It's very simple. What is the Z score formula we basically use? Calculate test statistics. And this will be t test, right? So the formula that we basically use, sorry, Z test. I'm extremely sorry. This will be Z test, not t test. Z test. Calculate Z. What is the formula that we basically use? X minus mu divided by standard deviation. I hope everybody remembers this formula, right? I hope everybody remembers this particular formula. Yes. I hope everybody remembers this particular formula, which we discussed on the second day a lot, right? But understand one thing. The real formula of Z square is, Z test is this divided by root n. Okay. The reason why we did not consider before root n, understand, for every sample, my n value will be 1. So whenever I write root of 1, it will be 1, right? But when we are working with a huge sample, right? When we are working with a huge sample, we have to basically use root n. And this is called as standard error. Standard error. Like how we divide something by, n minus 1. There is some reasons why we do it. Okay. And probably I don't know whether you have seen my video or not. Okay. So this is basically called as standard error. So we have to divide by root n. Always understand, for one sample, this root n will already be 1. So we have to use this particular formula, okay, to do this. Okay, so this is basically my standard error formula, which is specified by this. And always remember, because why do we use this? I'll just give you one example. Suppose I take 5 samples, right? I take 5 samples, 5 different samples from a population. Okay, five samples from different. Let's say that I have a population of 1,000 points. Okay, let's say that I have a population of 1,000 points. 1,000 points. Let's consider that I am considering a sample of 100 points. Every time I take, otherwise just wait for it, guys. I will teach you. There is a topic which is called as central limit theorem. I will discuss that, and then probably I'll teach you this particular topic. But just right now, understand that to make our standard error become very less, because here we are working with sample data, right? If we are working with population data, directly we can write standard deviation like this. But since we are working with sample data, we have some kind of standard error, and by dividing it by root n, as the sample size keeps on increasing, our values, our mean values will be matching with the population. Okay, so don't worry, just give some time and I will explain you this. For right now, just consider that it is standard deviation divided by root n. Okay, now if I go ahead and calculate this particular thing, so what is my x bar? My x bar is obviously what? Let's see, what is my mean? A sample of 30 participation is nothing but 140. Okay, so 140 minus, what is the population mean? IQ, the average IQ is 100. Okay, so here I will say 100 divided by what is standard deviation? Population standard deviation with a standard deviation of 15. So here I have 15 divided by root n. What is n? What is the sample that we have taken? 30. So here it will be root of 30. Okay, so this will basically be 40 divided by 15 multiplied by root 30. I hope I'm right. Okay, so I can do the calculation. It is nothing but what? Let me first of all find root of 30. 5.477. 5.477 multiplied by 40 divided by 15. So it is 14.60. It is 14.60. Is everybody getting 14.60? Is everybody getting 14.60? Now finally, we divide. I hope everybody is getting 14.60. Yes? Okay. Finally, we state our decision. Now, this is a very important step because from this particular step, I will be able to understand something. Okay. I got from my Z test 14.60. Now, let's go and see our decision rule. What did our decision rule basically say? It should be between minus 1.96 to plus 1.96. Is this greater than 1.96 or not? So 14.96 over here, 14.60 is greater than 1.96, which is obviously that my condition will be that if Z is less than minus 1.96 or greater than 1.96, then what we have to do? We have to just reject the null hypothesis, right? Because my Z value over here is 14.60. But let's take out one amazing thing from this. So when I reject my null hypothesis, that basically means my mean is not equal to 100, right? I'm accepting this. Now tell me one very important question. Does this medication improve the intelligence or did it decrease the intelligence? My next question is that did the medication improve the intelligence or decrease? Now this you have to answer me after solving this much. Tell me the answer. Obviously, it is improved. Improved, guys. Improved the intelligence, not decreased. Improved the intelligence. Very simple. Okay. No, you can say no. See, it is greater than 1.96, right? It is greater than this. This is my mean. This is my mean intelligence of 85. It is, and if I consider with respect to this, it is coming to somewhere over here in 14. So it has increased, okay, improved the intelligence, not decreased. If I was getting the Z value as minus 0.2, that time what was happening? Tell me. Then what would happen? It would have decreased the intelligence. Okay. It has increased the intelligence. Rejecting the null hypothesis is saying that the medicine had an impact. Okay. Now do the same problem. I will just change one value over here. This mean will be 110. This mean of this 30 participants will be 110. Try to solve the problem and tell me whether the null hypothesis is accepted or the alternate hypothesis, whether the null hypothesis is accepted or rejected. Okay, so do this from your side. Okay, I hope everybody will get the answer, I guess. I hope everybody will be able to do it. So guys, you liked the session till here? So do the problem statement. So we will start our second test, which is called as one sample t-test. Now, I hope you like the session. So guys, see, I like to teach in this particular way, right? You know, like write everything. I never prepare PPTs, Probably you have seen my YouTube videos. Hardly I prepare any kind of PPTs, I write it like this. The reason I write it like this, because it also helps me to practice. It also helps me to see that what mistakes I'm probably making, I'll become perfect in this. So tomorrow, if you call me in any session, Krish, probably teach statistics or machine learning, I will just go and start explaining everything over here. Okay. So this is how good things we can definitely do, right? So you have to practice. If you want to become good, you really need to practice things. Okay. Okay. Where we use p value. See guys, when it is getting rejected, right? I can definitely say the p value is less than or equal to 0.05. That basically means I'm falling in this region. Okay. Out of this, I can come to this particular outcome. Okay. Amit, enough, Amit. I'll put you in timeout. Okay. Now let's go towards the next problem statement, which is called as one sample t-test. Now I hope you understood what is t-test, right? First of all, let me say z-test. Whenever you have population standard deviation, you use this, right? You really need to remember this. If you don't have population standard deviation, that is an unknown case of population standard deviation, then what you do? You use t-test. Okay, so this is the basic difference between t-test and all. Okay, now I'll take the same problem. Okay, so let's solve the same question. Okay, first of all, in a population, the average IQ is equal to 100. Okay, then a team of researchers tried a medication to see whether there is a positive or negative effect. A sample of 30 participants were taken, and they have a mean IQ of 140. Okay, with a sample standard deviation of 20. So did the medication affect the intelligence? I'm not going to write the entire statement because it is repeated. Intelligence. Here my alpha will be 0.05. Now tell me what all things we have to basically do. Okay, the first thing first, answer. What is your null hypothesis? Your mean is equal to 100. What is your H1? Mean is not equal to 100. Right? I hope everybody is agreeing with this till here. The first step, the second step is done. Now the third step that we do in t-test, which I have discussed before also, calculate the degree of freedom. Okay. Here I basically use n minus 1. So this will be 30 minus 1, which is nothing but 29. Fourth step. What is my fourth step? I will go ahead with the decision rule. Now my decision rule is nothing but, it's very, very simple. I will go and define this graph. Okay. I know what is my alpha value, 0.05. I know my question. Did the medication affect the intelligence? It can either increase or decrease. So it will become a two-tailed test. So here you have 2.5. Here you have 2.5. Here is your 95. What is this value? We have probably found it out with degree of freedom 29. So let's go and try to find out with degree of freedom 29 what will be the value. So it is T table, degree of freedom 29. So 2.045. Okay. So 2.045. So here you will be able to see plus 2.0, what was that? 2.045, sorry, and minus 2.045, right? So this is your decision rule, right? Now your t value that you should be getting should be between this. If it is greater or lesser than this, you reject the null hypothesis. That is what you have to probably do. Finally, we go to the test statistics formula of t test. The formula will be almost same. T is equal to x bar minus mu divided by population standard deviation is not given, sample is given, and this will be root n. So try to compute the values, guys. X bar is nothing but 140, mu is nothing but 100, s is nothing but 20, n is nothing but 30. So compute it and tell me what is the answer. Quickly say me the answer. Tell me the answer. Answer. Okay, I'll talk about this, Sumit, how to conclude with the p-value. Just a second. Just give me a second, okay? I'll talk about it. So if I try to do the calculation entirely, this entire answer will be 10.96. Now, since we have got 10.96, it is obviously greater than 2.05. So the t value, which is nothing but 10.96, is greater than 2.045, and it is also greater than this particular value. So what we do, we reject null hypothesis. Now when we reject null hypothesis, that basically means my p value is less than or equal to the significance value. Okay, that is, I am falling in this region or in this region. Now if since I am getting 10.96, what do you think whether my intelligence increased or not? Yes, you can say your S0 can be as did not affect the intelligence. Yes, Prakash, it is fine. So obviously, final conclusion, you can see that it has increased the intelligence. So guys, I hope you like this session. So what you do? You reject the null hypothesis. Accept the null hypothesis. Sorry, reject the null hypothesis, accept the alternate. Okay, reject the null hypothesis. Yeah. So from my teaching, did your IQ increased or not? Now let's see a real world problem. And probably you can do this from yourselves. A bank wants to open an ATM machine in a specific area. Okay. So this problem you have to formulate and you have to think over it, how we can apply hypothesis testing. You can consider any values that you want. Okay. You can consider any values that you want. Okay. Like you can say that average money people take out from the ATM machine. Okay. With 95% confidence interval, you can formulate, because this was one interview question in one bank that is called as Standard Chartered. Interview question from there. Okay. So try to solve this. Think over it. What all things basically required, right? Think over it and try to solve it. Okay. Right. So I think we have finished 1.5 hour session. Please, I'll also be starting uploading Hindi videos in my other channel. So please make sure that you subscribe that channel also, Krishnaik Vlogs. You can search for it, or should I give you the link if you want? I know, सर कितने चैनल बनाओगे भाई, ऐसे बोलोगे यार, दो ही चैनल है. द रीजन व्हाई आई एम मेकिंग इज दैट मेनी पीपल हैव रिक्वेस्टेड फॉर Hindi videos in data science, machine learning, and all. So this is my channel name with respect to the Hindi channel. I pinned it. Go subscribe. And yes, tomorrow you'll be seeing many videos coming. And tomorrow again we'll meet at 7 p.m. Okay. So till here, what all things we completed? I have written too many. See, भाई आप लोग इतना सीख जाओगे ना लिखने के लिए, कोई भी प्रॉब्लम फाड़ दोगे सर, फाड़ दोगे, फाड़ दोगे. So we finished till here. Z test, T test. Now we'll do chi-square also. You can change your alpha value also. Okay. Don't worry, last day I will give many questions to you all to solve also. Okay. Okay, guys. So thank you. And I am a bit tired. And yes, I have other work also. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell notification icon so that whenever I upload a video, notification should be shown to you. Okay. And I am uploading videos in Hindi also. So thank you guys. Keep on rocking. Never give up. और क्या बोले, स्वस्थ रहो, सुखी सुखी रहो, खुश रहो और एंजॉय करो. थैंक यू गाइस. बाय बाय. हैव अ ग्रेट डे. थैंक यू. बाय.